Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh edition of GTF here on Saturday, April 29th, day 3 of the NFL draft. And just want to let you know that we will be covering the entire draft here on day 3, pick by pick. And we'll have some barflies on, have some talk. So any of you barflies who are interested in joining us for a few minutes, just drop me a DM at Barroom Network, and then we'll try to get you on. Let us welcome in the man of the hour, Mr. Greg Gabriel. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful, except I was up till about 2 watching more tape. So,
well,
I'm ready to fall asleep again. But hey,
a nap right after this will be.
Well, I don't know if I got time for a nap because the draft starts in 2 hours.
That's right, exactly. All right. Well, here's what I want to do first. Let's listen to Ryan Poe's share with the media late last night what he thought about his 3 picks, and then we'll get your opinion on each of those 3 players.
Dexter at 253, big, strong guy. When you guys see him, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Tons of talent in that body. He's a hybrid. He can play nose. He can play 3 technique, work anywhere on the interior, and extremely athletic. Moves really well. So we're excited about him. Tyrique Stevenson, another guy we were really excited about. Got exposed to him at the Senior Bowl, as well as obviously our fall evaluation. Didn't feel really comfortable with him making it to us. So we got a little bit of aggressive, went up and grabbed him. Big physical corner, tackles, will strike you. Good ball skills. What stands out about him in coverage, he has a ton of poise. Really stays in control through all of his movements, and especially when the ball's in the air. So we're excited about him. And then at 361, as we made the turn into third, Zacch Pickens was another guy that we had really close to Dexter, and he was still there for us. So again, another opportunity to add, big interior player who has length, really nice feet, very good athlete. So, that's one space we wanted to get better. We want to be more stout. But at the same time, this defense, you got to be able to run, and both of those guys can do that. So, made some good progress today.
Okay, Greg Gabriel, let's hear from you. What kind of progress did they make? Did you agree with the picks? I know in your scouting reports earlier, you had some negative comments about a couple of the players. Talk to me one by one about these players.
Well, okay, let's start. Well, I'll take the guy I liked the best was Zacch Pickens. A great pick. And he can play the 3. He's what you want in a 3 technique, in that he's explosive. He gets penetration. He's disruptive in the run game, and he can rush the passer. And very, very athletic. And he's played, and if you played the whole press conference, he played at around 300, dropped down to 291 for the combine. And Ryan talked about their program, and very similar to what I've been saying for the last few weeks. He just used different words. He used lean muscle mass versus body fat, but it's the same thing. Percentage of body fat, but what their program entails, and they're really, really big on it. They think they can get him to lose a little bit baby fat, turn that into muscle, have better lean mass weight, and be a good player. So I like that pick, and especially where they got him in the 3rd round. The one I had concern about was Tyrique Stevenson, and here's why. First of all, I probably watched 5 games before, and the first 4 games I watched were really good. So you get excited about the guy. Then I put on the 5th game, and it's North Carolina, and he got torched. And so now that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know, and in most cases, it was mental mistakes, not physical mistakes. So one thing about this guy now, he's got good size. He's 6 feet, he's 195 pounds. He runs a 4.45, can jump out of the building, long arms. He's got everything, all the tools you want. Okay, now, as I was telling you off the air before we started, so I put that one tape on last night after the draft was over, and the first play where he gets beat deep along the left sideline looks to me, and again, without knowing exactly what their coverage is, and, you know, sometimes you got to talk to a coach and say, what happened here? Okay, it looks, when you first look at it, it looks like he screwed up, made a mental error, and the guy got by him and got a long touchdown. Looking back at it the second time, it looks as if they were in cover 2, and he was expecting safety top over the, you know, or a safety help over the top to help him, and that never came. And so then he's seeing the guy run free, and it's like, oh shit. And, you know, so I don't, you know, without talking to a coach who knows exactly what he's supposed to do in that defensive call, you're really guessing. But there was a couple other mental mistakes in that game. And, you know, he gave up a couple big plays. That's the only game where I had concern, but it's the last game I did. And so you know, you go back and you go, well, is he got everything together upstairs? Because they made some mental mistakes. But then, you know, I had not watched the Senior Bowl tape. I watched the practice tape early this morning, and he had a great week at the Senior Bowl too. So, you know, they spent a lot of time with them. I don't spend, you know, I don't have the off-field stuff, as we've talked about 1,000 times. So they felt good about him. So that's good. There's no question he's talented. And on top of that, he can return kicks, punt returner. And he's a pretty good punt returner. So,
very good.
Yeah. So it's a guy they like. They had a conviction on. You pull the trigger. Remember, I've said this a lot of times. You know, when I was in meetings with my scouts, if there was a disagreement, if I felt one way about a scout and or about a player, and they felt another way about a player, then I always said, okay, let's watch more tape so we can get on the same page. Sometimes you don't change your opinion. There's other times, because I said try to watch the tape through their eyes and, you know, on what they see. And a lot of times say, you know what, you're right. So I did that. Okay, Gervon Dexter. And there's a key thing that Ryan said last night. And I've said it a million times before too, but sometimes when you watch tape, you forget, you know, what got you to be here, you know, the spot you're in to begin with. With defensive linemen, they always got a little crap in their neck. Okay. Their games aren't perfect. Okay. And so, you know, Ryan said last night, you got to grade the flashes. And when you grade the flashes, fucker is good. You know, excuse my language. You know, and yeah, there's some plays where it seems like he just doesn't have that all-out effort. You can say the same thing about Jalen Carter. You know, he was supposed to be the best player in this draft. But this is a big guy, 6'6", 310 pounds, and he runs in the 4.8s. You know, so, and very strong. So, I get it. And then I saw something this morning that I missed where you talked about who was the defensive tackle the Bears had. I can't think of his name. Played here for 4 years. He left in free agency from Delaware. They took him in the 4th round.
Oh,
Ryan Pace took him.
Bilal Nichols.
Yes. Okay. Bilal Nichols at Delaware actually played on the nose in a read and contain defense And so you never saw him do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically occupying blockers at the line of scrimmage because that's what he was being told to do.
Mm-hmm.
And at Florida, very similar with Dexter. He's supposed to clog up the middle, not attack, occupy blockers, not let people get by him. Where in this defense, he attacks.
Okay.
Because it's a totally different kind of defense. And so, and I thought about that too. It's like you put him in a defense that fits his traits.
Right.
And you got an entirely different player. So, and the only thing I'm disappointed about is they didn't take an edge. And there's still a few good ones left. But I get it. Ryan said last night, he said, we had to chore up the middle because when you chore up the middle, and he wants to play 4 guys in the middle, rotate 4 guys. So they got Jones. They brought in the guy from the Raiders and Liggins. And now these 2 guys, and they've got some stout guys inside. And we all know the run defense sucked last year.
Indeed.
So they've gotten bigger. They've gotten more athletic. They've got some potential interior pass rush ability now. So that's better. And Ryan said that should free up the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now, if you look off of last season, they don't have a true speed rusher. They got some power guys. Now, Robinson, who they drafted last year, supposed to be that speed guy. Now, he's a rookie, and he's still young at the position, because he only played 2 years of defensive end in college. And then last year, and he started off good. He flashed, but you just didn't see consistency. And then by going from college to the NFL, it's like he hit that wall around game 12, game 13, which is kind of typical with rookies because it's such a longer season than it is in college. So he could have that big year 2 jump. I still think they need one more solid speed rusher. There's a couple left. The guy I like the most is Isaiah McGuire from Missouri.
Yep.
And I think is a hell of a football player. But it doesn't matter what I think. It's where is he on their board?
Right. Well,
okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let me get back to Dexter, because when you did your evaluation of him, and our listeners are so good. I mean, they listen to every word of that you say religiously. And your comments about Gervon Dexter was that he only had 2 sacks in college. And you said, if you only get 2 sacks in college, how are you going to get more in the NFL? And then you also
was it 2 in college or 2 this year? I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at the his numbers.
I'm not sure either, but you also pointed out, which was a fantastic observation, because I went back and looked at tape of him and saw multiple examples. That I used it in the video that we posted on Barroom Draft Exclusives, where Dexter was late off the line. And you said, these were your words, I'm not saying he does it every play, but every game he's late off the line. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is something that's coachable. You can coach this guy up, get his head right to jump off the line. But talk to me more about those imperfections you saw in Dexter's game and how the Bears need to address that.
Well, a lot of it is coaching. And the unknowns, especially when you're not making a school call, is I don't know the coaching staff. I don't know how good their defensive line coach is. You don't know exactly what he's being asked to do within their scheme. Now, when you make a school call and you're talking to the coaches, you're talking to the pro liaison, you can, you get an idea. All we're doing, we're on the outside. We look at raw tape, and you're going off of that. So we don't have the full story. We got a partial story.
Absolutely.
the initial quickness or snap, I'm not going to say initial quickness. He has initial quickness. Snap reaction. Some of it's like he's, instead of looking at the ball, a lot of guys that just lean a little bit and they see the ball move a little bit and they're off. He might be taught to look at the guy in front of him. And again, I don't make a school call. I don't know what he's being taught and what he's being asked to do. It's the same thing with offensive linemen. You can see offensive linemen and you don't like their hand use and their technique. But you see everybody else on the line doing the exact same thing. Then you say, well, that's what they're being taught. So how can I criticize that?
Yeah.
So it's now it becomes a situation where your new coach comes in and that's he works, and you want to call it a weakness or whatever, you work on that, you perfect that, and it's going to correct what he was doing wrong in college. But those are things that if a guy's got coachability, he's not going to have a problem improving his game.
And James Ford says that in the interview that Dexter had with the reporter, he says, the player himself says, I did not get a lot of coaching in college. Thanks for that, James Ford. And he's going to get plenty of that here with the Chicago Bears. That's for sure. Let's now go back to Tyrique Stevenson because, somebody.
Well, let's go back just one thing on him.
Sure.
I think it was last year, the year before they had the new coach who came from
last year.
Yeah. Okay, right. So now between 2021 and 2022, they changed the scheme, changed the coach, and changed what he's being asked to do. Okay, so that can have an effect on your game too. And trust me, I'm not making an excuse. Because when you look at the raw talent is way up here. And I can go back to Tank Johnson, who we took in the second round. And when you look at the flashes, Tank was outstanding. When you looked at the whole game, there was, what the fuck's going on here? I mean, you didn't see it down after down after down. You can see it with Jalen Carter. And then you go back. I'm forgetting my own rules here. They're defensive linemen, and they're born with faults.
It's in their DNA.
They got a whole different mindset than, say, an offensive lineman. And so you have to look at the talent. And the talent is obviously there. Now, and saying all that, because I was thought about this, it seems, looking at the type of guys they brought in free agency and and the draft, they've changed the profile a little bit on the defensive line.
Okay.
From what, like when I talked to Ryan out at the East-West game, he said, the profile was very, very similar to what we had with Lovey. But now when you look at it, so it's 3 months later, and you look at what they did in free agency and what they did in the draft, and you're not seeing guys that exactly fit that profile. You're seeing athleticism, but you're seeing a little bit more brawn, a little bit more stoutness. And which leads me to believe that in off-season discussions between the coaching staff and the personnel staff, and more the coaching staff, is that they're saying, you know what, we got to change some things a little bit, to get this thing right, and which is fine. And, because you just got to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Indeed. Okay, let's go over to Tyrique Stevenson. One bad game. You were impressed with all of the tape. There was, though, an off-the-field issue in March of 2019 when he was a freshman at Georgia, where he was arrested on disorderly conduct. There was a bar fight. I'm pretty sure that Poles has to be very confident that those things were just of the past, because he drafts based on character. That's a high priority. But do you have any comments on that?
How many of us got in fights when we were 19 years old? And a couple too many pops, and you got some a-hole in the bar. First of all, you're in the bar illegally, but we all know how that works
in college towns. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, as long as we're talking about that now, where I grew up in New York, when I was that age, the drinking age in New York was 18, not 21. It's 21 now. So we were going into bars when we were sophomores in high school. We're 16, and if you looked a little older, you were going in. And so he's a 19-year-old, maybe he's 20, and he's at Georgia, and I've been to Athens, Georgia a number of times. It's a hopping place. It's a great college town. So, you get in an argument, you take a poke at somebody. Yeah, who cares? You know what? Football players are alpha males, and you don't mess with them, because if you say the wrong thing to them, they're going to lay out.
Yeah.
Ask Olin Cruz. we bring up Olin a lot, but ask Olin Cruz.
Yes, and Olin should be in the Hall of Fame for his play, but if there's ever a Hall of Fame for alpha males, Olin should be the first inductee, right?
Speaking of Hall of Fame, and I don't know if you were watching on the NFL Network or ESPN. I watched the NFL Network. When Devin was, he introduced the 2 second-round picks. Rich Eisen gave him a big pump. Now this guy should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
which I thought was really nice of Eisen to do that. So they're missing the boat on not having him in the Hall of Fame.
Amazing. Zacch Pickens. I'm trying to remember what you said in your Barroom Draft exclusive. I think that generally you were very complimentary of him, but you did nitpick, I think is maybe not the right word, but you did point out some imperfections. So again, to the best of your memory, what do you think about Pickens when you scouted him?
No, he's a guy that the more you watch, the more you like. He's very strong. Now, he only did 22 reps, I think, at the combine, but that doesn't bother me, because your power for offensive linemen and defensive linemen comes from your hips and your ass. And he constantly or consistently gets penetration. He can use his hands. Yeah, he needs to be coached. He's coming out of college. They all need to be coached. And how about this? Except for Dexter, all these guys played at the Senior Bowl. 3 out of 4.
That's right. And on Luke Getsy's team. How about that?
I'm not sure they were all. I know 2 were. All 3 on Getsy's team.
I'll have to double check that. I'm supposing that it was 3 because I saw it was at least 2. So I'll double check on the third guy.
But Stevenson, this guy, Zacch Pickens, and Wright all played down at the Senior Bowl. And a lot of people put a lot of stock into how they do the Senior Bowl. And last night I looked at the one-on-ones from the Senior Bowl because I got the practice tape. And this guy dominated.
Yes.
And the only guy who dominated, I thought, better was my guy, Adebawore. But, obviously the Bears staff thinks a lot different than me, and that's fine. And like I've been saying, it seems like their profile has changed a little bit, where they want a bigger, more stout guy, and he's 285 pounds. Now, he also runs 4.49, and he's got 34-inch arms. Could he be an edge player in the NFL? I see him better as an inside player, but I'm not saying it's totally out of the question, especially in this type of scheme.
Yeah, CJ was asking that question. CJ was asking, does he have any edge potential?
Well, when you look at the raw numbers, yeah, absolutely. Now he was playing he wasn't playing like an outside edge at Northwestern. He was more like a 5 technique and stuff. And so, yeah, that's up to the coaching staff. I'm not going to change my opinion of the guy. I like the guy, but as I've said 1,000 times, he's not for everybody because of his size. So the 3-4 teams aren't going to really like him that much because he isn't 300 pounds.
Right.
So that makes him only interesting to, a handful of teams that can use his body type. But hey, 449 is 449. 34-inch arms or 34-inch arms. He's got like a 30-something inch vertical jump. He did 28 reps in the bench. He's got the toolbox. You wish he was a little bit taller. I thought for the 3, he's plenty tall, but outside you want taller. But, the guy, I can't think of his first name, Hughes, who played for the Bills for a long time, was with Houston last year. He was 6'1 3/4.
Jerry Hughes.
And the guy's a hell of a sack guy.
All right, let's knock out some of these questions. First of all, so if in this first pick of round 4, if the Bears pick Adetomiwa Adebawore, you would not mind that at all, would you?
No, but being that I'm not sold he's an edge, I personally like Isaiah McGuire from Missouri, who I think is, he's a big, tall guy. He doesn't have 4 or 5 speed. He's a 4.7 guy, but he plays fast and he plays a very physical, violent game. And, Missouri sucked. And so he was a real good player on a poor team.
Yeah.
And, playing in the SEC, and he played well. But there's some other guys, just before we get into the questions, some rushers that are decent. KJ Henry from Clemson is, very athletic guy. Tavius Robinson from Ole Miss, a big, tall guy that also is fast and athletic. Now, watching tape on him, he doesn't have the greatest lean when he's coming off the edge. You want big guys to get down low that way.
Right.
And he's more upright. You're going to have to work on that. But he's got sack talent. There's an undersized guy that's really interesting. And that's Lonnie Phelps from Kansas. He's only 245 pounds, so, he's like a poor man's Nolan Smith. He can run. He's got an all-out motor, but you wish he was bigger.
Yeah.
And the guy he's kind of reminds me of, body-wise, coming out of college is Ngakwe.
Okay, he's a free agent.
Yeah, and there's another guy. Well, Ngakwe was a 3rd-round pick coming out or something, but he's a free agent now. And then a very similar guy to him is Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan. Who's got a big motor and can run pretty good, dominated the MAC, but now he's jumping up 2 levels of comp, not 1. And so there's guys there, and another small guy, and this guy's more like he's like 6'1.5", 245, but can run like hell, and he had like 9 sacks last year, listed as an outside linebacker, but you can use him as a pass rusher, as a DPR, is Yasser Abdullah from Louisville.
Okay. What about the edge from Army, Carter? I saw him down at the Senior Bowl, and I was really actually disappointed with his play. He looked physically unable to compete with all of those top college football players. He looks like a basketball player, like he would be a great basketball player as opposed to playing in the NFL. What are your thoughts on Carter?
I did him in the summer, and for Mike, and you saw some things that you really liked. Okay, now fast forward, it's like he's already hit his ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And that made not, but you got to take into consideration where he's playing. He's playing in Army. He's playing in a service academy. Football isn't the number one thing they do there. So he's probably behind. Not probably is. He's behind in the weight room. And just the off-season training and stuff that they do. He's behind other guys. To me, he's a guy you take late and you put him on the practice squad and hope he develops. But I don't think he's a sure shot, but he's got some talent and he's got a big-time motor.
Yeah, he's definitely that. Great attitude, super guy. Wish him well, but he just needs to get some anchor on him, and a year in the practice squad could do him wonders. Let's see. We got a question here. Why are the Bears taking 5-star recruits who underperformed in college, says Robert Ben.
Oh, I got a great answer for that, because that recruiting rating doesn't mean shit. First of all, who are the guys doing the guys who are doing the high school rating? Not one of them could work in the National Football League, and they do. I think it's a joke, to tell you the truth, especially with linemen, because you get a big guy, okay, like Zacch Pickens or Gervon Dexter. And Dexter, I think, was a 5-star guy. Well, you're a big guy in high school, and you're going against a kid 100 pounds less than you. Of course you're going to dominate them. Because you're not playing guys your own size. You're not playing guys with the same athleticism. And so now they get to college, and a lot of them don't turn out to be anywhere near as good as their high school ranking. And I think these people, with wide receivers and running backs, it's sometimes easy to rank them and they're closer. I think they're off on linemen so often. But that's my opinion. I put no stock. I used to do it, tell you the truth. I subscribed, when I was with the Bears, I subscribed to one of those publications, and only because I wanted to see what they were coming out of high school. Okay. And what I came up with, and I'll give you an example. You know what Matt Forte was coming out?
No.
2-star.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so, and he's from right outside Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and LSU didn't even recruit him. He ends up going to Tulane. You can find a bunch of guys like that go high, that were no stars, 2 stars or whatever, and they turn out to be great players. Now, you try to argue it with these college football ranking aficionados, and they'll say, well, they ranked so many more people as 3 stars, so, a certain percentage is bound to hit. And I said, that argument doesn't hold any weight. You're either right or you're wrong. Don't give me, 42% are supposed to hit it. Well, that means 58% didn't, and you were wrong. And where they get a lot of these, excuse me, where they come up with a lot of these rankings is at these camps. And at these camps, it's like the combine. It's not football.
It's not football, yeah.
So
that's ridiculous.
They mean nothing to me. But it is, like I said, I did it because I wanted to see what they were coming out, and I still do it because I think it's just a small piece of the puzzle, but it's part of the puzzle.
Okay, let us move on to the next question. Vince asks, who are some of the running backs today left on the board that you like? Vince is just like me. I want a speed back, man. I want a speed
I didn't look at it.
Let me
I don't know
pull
if
up
there's
my
any real speed guys. I got some groups here. I got to find them where. I got to find out where the hell I put them here.
All right. Well, and I can tell you that of the speed backs available, Chase Brown. What do you think about Chase Brown?
Chase Brown. Chase Brown is a good back.
and he's projected to go in the 4th round.
Right.
I don't know what Dwayne McBride ran, but he's another back that I like.
Well, he's he's kind of like Monty.
Okay.
You know, he worked out for people actually earlier this week, and I do not have the results of that workout because he was, coming off an injury.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down some of these backs. I can wear that. Maybe I went back a page here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Running backs. Okay. The guy from Pitt, I can't pronounce his name.
Israel Abanikanda.
Chase Brown from Illinois. Rashawn Johnson. I like Abanikanda and Johnson the best before I take Chase Brown. Sean Tucker from Syracuse. Him and Chase Brown are clones. Dwayne McBride from UAB, and then Zach Evans from Ole Miss. And all of them are good quality backs, and all of them could end up being starters in the league, getting in the right situation. Is running back considered a big need by the Bears? Fans say yes. But, you go back, there's one thing about Ryan Poles. He doesn't bullshit. He tells you the truth. He's very, very transparent. And, they signed, I can't remember the guy's name. They signed the guys with Seattle, the running back. And he didn't get a lot of opportunity in Seattle. He was the number 3 guy. But you go back and you look at his college tape and his highlights from the NFL, even though he's like 205, 208 pounds, he's a hell of a pass blocker. Yeah. And he catches the ball really, really well. And then you got Donta Foreman, who is your inside power guy, and he can run too for a 230-pound guy. And you got Khalil Hilbert. So, they've got those 3 guys. They got Ebner, who they drafted last year, was another speed guy. He's your 4.45 type of guy. Who had flashes, but, played like a rookie last year. So I don't know if they think it's as big as need as many fans think. And the other position where, fans really wanted a player was center because they don't trust Whitehair and Patrick, but they passed by all those centers. They have a lot, the decision makers have a lot better feeling about those 2 guys than the fans do. But there's still 2 pretty good ones left on the board. There's Timmy from Michigan and Wappler from Ohio State. So could they pull the trigger on one? Sure. I think they got to get an edge today, whether they do it with this pick, because the one thing that could happen, they might not keep this pick. They are going to get a boatload of phone calls on this because it's the first pick. And people are going to say, there's a guy up there we got to have. And I'm going to say they'll get at least a half a dozen calls for that pick. And because it's the first pick, you usually get a little bit of a premium on the trade. So, it just depends on if there's somebody they really like that's there, then they're going to pull the trigger on them. If not, they could trade back, and it depends how far they trade back. But then they pick up, they gave up their late 4th to move up to get Stevenson. You're not going to get that 4th back, but you might get a 5th or a 6th, and they don't have a 6th. So, that remains to be seen. We're going to know that in about an hour and a half.
All right, let's get to some more questions. Let's see. Is there a safe? Let me go to releasing one. A.T. Perry, Bruce Ford Wheaton, Zach Kuntz, Matt Landers, Dontavian Wicks, who visited with the Bears and was coached by Getsy at the Senior Bowl. All are available. Who do you like from that list?
Well, there's 2 that I love, and that's A.T. Perry and Dontavian Wicks.
Yeah, you saw Perry up close at the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Right, and I started doing him on tape. He was Wake Forest #1 receiver the last 2 years. People didn't think he was going to run fast, and then he ran 4.46.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tall guy who can get separation. He's an X receiver in the Bears scheme. But they already got two of those guys. So, but I think he's an excellent receiver. Is he exactly what they want? I don't know. Dontavian Wicks, they brought him in. And you go back and you look at the tape, because he did not run good at the combine. He ran like 4.62. But he was coming off a hammy, and he probably shouldn't have run. He ran 4.57, I think, at his pro day. But you go back and look at the tape, and he plays like a 4.48 to 4.50 guy. And he's about 6'1.5", 200 pounds. He's got great route running ability, very good hands. And then here's the best part. 2021, he averaged over 20 yards a catch. And it's not like he caught 10 passes. He caught like 75 or something. I don't have the number in front of me. Yeah. This guy was productive as hell in 21. And when you watch the tape, his ability to get separation, and that's one thing that's real big with this decision makers here at Hallis Hall, is they want guys who can separate. And so he can do it. I would not be a bit surprised if that's the guy. But there's another receiver, Tyler Scott from Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a little guy. And this group seems to gravitate towards bigger guys, but he's a little guy with a run. And they brought him in. So that's an interesting guy. Who are the other names?
What do you think about, from Bellissimo, darn it, Landers?
I don't know Landers.
Let me see if I can find that real quick. Darn it, because I think I got rid of it.
He's got the tight end from Charlotte or Old Dominion or wherever the hell he
Zacch Kuntz, right?
Yeah. Now, here's my one question on Kuntz, because Kuntz had a hell of a year this year. And he's a big, tall, athletic move tight end. Can't block worth a damn. But he came from Penn State, and he couldn't get on the field at Penn State.
Yeah.
So if it's me, I go to Penn State and find out why. Now, it might have been a personality thing. Sometimes the guys go somewhere else and they take off. But he drops down a level of comp. He was playing lower D1 football, like MAC level type football versus Power 5 football. And he jumps out. But I think he had 2 receptions his whole time at Penn State. So that's just a hidden question that you need to find the answer to. What was the issue at Penn State that he did nothing?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Tooch has a question. He goes, with the 2 new defensive line picks, where do you think DeMarcus Walker plays? He's going to probably stay at the defensive end position.
Left end, but I think he could be an interior pass rusher too. He's got flexibility. But I now go back. He's 275 pounds. He looks a little bigger than that, but that's probably where he's listed at, and that's probably where they're going to have him play. He's a left defensive end in this scheme. And he'd be a good left defensive end. I want to see another speed rusher, and mainly because it's like Travis Gibson hit the wall last year. You thought after 21 that the arrow was going up. Because he had like 7 sacks in 21 or something, playing as a reserve, in the rotation. And then last year, nothing. And so, and I was talking to Poles, he was disappointed. Now, he wasn't disappointed that he was ready to throw him out the door, but he wants to see a big improvement from him. And so just him saying that tells me there still is a need for a speed rusher, because they really got 2. They got him and they got Robinson, and that's it. And all the other guys are different types of players. Now there's a couple free agents. You can still go out in the free agent market and get a veteran. And there hasn't been a real edge signed in weeks. They're all there because a lot of them want to see who gets drafted where and where they got the best opportunity to play. And of course, our friend Ngakoue.
Mm-hmm.
And Ngakoue is mainly a pass rusher. His run defense leaves a little bit to be desired. But what's the biggest need on this team right now? It's the natural pass rusher.
Indeed.
So that could be a choice. And there's a couple others. There's Dwayne Smoot played with Jacksonville. And I think I'd have to go back and look at what Jacksonville drafted. I think they drafted an edge.
Mm-hmm.
I may be totally wrong because I haven't paid attention to what the other teams do.
Yeah, me neither.
So that guy's a possibility. And then, and we talked about this before, and some people disagree with me, our old friend Leonard Floyd.
Yeah.
We'll say, well, he's a linebacker. Well, you go watch and see how they played him at the Rams, and he had 28.5 or 29 sacks over the last 3 years, and has not missed a game. And now he's a little old for what they're looking for. He's 31 years old, but he hasn't missed a game in 5 years. And that stat alone is incredible.
Indeed.
And the fact the last 3 years he's had like 10, 9, and 9.5 sacks. He's been very, very consistent as a pass rusher. So, and in this game, yeah, he's only 242, 243 pounds, but he can play end in this game. Alex Brown was 248. Gunlier was 255 to 260. So, the way they use them, and back then we were playing guys the whole game. We weren't, doing the rotation like they are now. You could sign a Leonard Floyd and play him in a rotation, and he might get you 10 sacks again. He was making pretty damn good money for the Rams. I mean, he hit the lottery with the contract he got. They let him loose not because of talent, because they're trying to get younger, and they were just being killed on the cap. They had to get some youth brought in and get rid of some of those contracts. But people that work for the Rams, and I talk about Teddy Monaco a lot, who's a good friend. Teddy loves him, and he said he's a pro's pro. So I wouldn't hesitate to sign him. But again, that's up to Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus.
Okay. CJ Williams says Stevenson's got the arm length. Haha, I'm just kidding. With his ball skills, do you see him replacing Jackson? Eddie Jackson?
No, he's not a safety. He's a corner.
Yeah. He's definitely.
And it's not easy. John Hoke, who's coaching the corners now, and John worked with me on Lovey's staff. And I think he's a great, great coach. One of the best DB coaches I've been around, and a very good evaluator. I remember back when he was here, we're talking, and I used to think, well, can't play corner, movement, safety. And he just looks at me, he goes, that isn't an easy thing to do. And I said, explain. He said, well, corner's looking at one side of the field. He's got a limited job. He's got his outside receiver right there, and he's not watching the whole field. So where a safety's in the middle of the field, his reads, his reactions, everything is entirely different from what a corner is. And you got to have a very alert, instinctive football player that can make that transition from playing outside a corner to inside a safety. And on top of that, at safety, you got to be a lot more physical than you are at corner.
Well, and I think maybe our last commentator maybe mistook Jackson for Johnson, Jalen
Johnson.
And Poe said that he still hopes that Jalen Johnson is going to be signed.
Yes, it's a good football player.
Yes,
so
indeed.
but corner's a premium position with these guys. And so, you get as many as you can. And there's still a few good corners out there.
Darius Rush being one of them.
Darius Rush, big. There's a few of them. Let me see where I put my list here. Corner. Kelly Ringo from Georgia.
Yeah.
Terrell Smith from Minnesota and Darius Rush from South Carolina are all pretty damn good corners.
Excellent players. And then we had a question about tight ends. Somebody wanted to know, is there a good blocking tight end still available? And that was from Eco Bean. And I personally love Payne Durham out of Perdon't, as Greg likes to call it. He's not very fast. He ran a 4.87 at the combine, but he's 6'5.5". He's got really good hands, weighs 253 pounds. I love the way he played down at
and he's a local kid, isn't he?
Oh, that's right. Barrington, I want to say. But,
local kid.
Yeah, I really like
I
him.
got 4 tight ends down. We talked about Zach Kuntz. I got Payne Durham. I don't think any of these guys are real good blockers. So
I agree.
Okay. And for the most part, you don't get very many tight ends out of college who can block worth a damn anymore. And it's because none of them are playing in it. Why? The best was Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. And then Washington from Georgia. And Washington slipped to the 3rd round because he has a knee that was concerned. Otherwise, he could have very well gone in the first. But there's 2 more. Probably the best blocker of the group is Davis Allen from Clemson. But he's like average. And then I got Josh Wiley from Cincinnati. So, they're players. They got a free agent from last year, undrafted free agent from Iowa State from last year that they like. Played a couple games, mostly on the practice squad. Showed good in the preseason. He's a guy that they're fond of. So whether they go after one today, we'll find out shortly. And a lot of it too is what are they looking at on the board? And is that guy your highest ranked player regardless of the position?
Yeah.
Right. So we get down, I probably got almost 2 rounds worth of players here. So that's the 4th and 5th round. You still got 6 and 7. And I haven't done a lot of these lower guys. And the interesting thing about day 3 is that there's going to be guys drafted that you never heard of because, and I keep saying everybody's board's different. There's going to be like in this round coming up, there's going to be some guys taken and you're going to go, who's he? Or, and you're going to have guys that got a high rating by one club. Part of it is because they fit what they're doing, and they might be rated as a free agent by another club. And that happens all the time in the day 3 part of the draft. Now, the other thing, there's already been a few non-combine guys drafted. And generally speaking, and most of them come on day 3, 35 to 40 non-combine guys get drafted. So there could be a bunch of those guys, and I think they had a few. I don't have my list here because we're using my phone now, and I got the picture of my phone. Yeah. There's a bunch of guys that weren't at the combine that they brought in for visits. So, like I said, it's going to be an interesting day. I'm looking forward to watching it and see how different teams think.
Well, let's knock out a few more questions and we'll get you ready for day 3 of the NFL draft. PJ wants to know, he's surprised that Jalen Duncan is still on the board. Do you think that the Bears might have interest in him? You liked him out of Maryland, the offensive lineman.
Yeah, no, he's a good player and he can play either side. They brought him in for a visit. His game really improved. I got a friend at Maryland and, on the staff there. And, during the summer, he was so on the guy. And then after this season, in fact, I talked to him like 3 weeks ago, and I asked him about those two corners, and the one corner is still out there, Corey Bennett. And he said, "Hey, Greg, he really came on. He played really, really well for us, and he played left tackle for them, but he can play both sides. And reality is that could still be a need position because who the hell knows what Leatherwood is, and I think Larry Borum is marginal."
Yeah, indeed. John wants to know, what do you think of Andreas Iosovis, the wide receiver from Princeton? Very fast.
Very fast, but very raw. And
Very.
He probably would need a year on the practice squad. The traits are really good. His route tree was not the largest as compared to some of these other guys. But obviously, if he went to Princeton, he's a smart kid. There's a ton of upside with this guy, but he's not ready to step on the field and really help you as a rookie. Maybe the second half of the season, but not the first half of the season. Could he go in this fourth round? Yeah, because of the speed he could. But I think he's more of a fifth or sixth round guy myself.
Okay. Let's see. We got another one here from James Hunter wants to know about Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver out of Iowa, I believe.
Yeah, not have great speed, 4.52, great hands, great route runner, good football player. I'd rather have, if you're going to have a guy who doesn't have great time speed, I'd rather have Dontavian Wicks over Xavier Hutchinson, but Hutchinson's a good football player.
Cool. Let's see. CJ Williams, I think I can answer this one. Are you more inclined to start rookie defensive linemen or rotate them in? I think, Greg, agree or disagree with me. I think that what's going to happen is it doesn't matter who the starters is. What's going to matter is who's going to get the most snaps. And from game to game to game, you're going to see that change based on matchups. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, he said it, and they did it last year. That's not quite a 50-50 rotation, but it's pretty damn close. And I think that, with drafting the two guys yesterday high, you want to get those guys on the field. And so they're going to play 45 to 55% of the snaps in the rotation.
Yep.
Nobody's going to play 70.
Exactly. No way. Hopefully they're not in the field.
And Ryan said it, and it makes sense. And colleges have been doing it for years. The pros are just catching up. Get a bunch of good linemen and rotate them and keep them fresh.
Indeed.
There's some colleges that keep a guy in for 3 plays and pull him. Even if it's the middle of the drive, 3 plays, he's out. And then the next guy goes in 3 plays, and the original guy goes back in. They just keep rotating them in and out because they want to keep them fresh, and especially for the fourth quarter.
PJ wants to know, is Isaiah McGuire a scheme fit? He looks pretty quick with good bend. We talked about him a little earlier. He's definitely a scheme fit. Yes.
Absolutely.
Victor De Jesus wants to know your thoughts on Kenny McIntosh from Georgia. I saw him up close at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I like the running backs I mentioned. I like a little better.
Yeah,
but is he bad? No. Good football player, but he had a great offensive line in front of him too.
No way you pick Oluwatimi, the center, with this first pick of the 4th round, correct?
Well, that's a good question. At this point, for how I am graded, that's a good pick. I'd rather have an edge before him, though.
Yeah, well, and you said that having a young center at this point with the 2 young tackles now and a new guard, it probably wouldn't be a great thing to also start a young center, and maybe it's best to stick with the veterans you got on the squad.
Right. if you got a veteran offensive line, you can get away with a young center. But when you got a real young line, you better have a veteran. And that's why I think that the need, like I say, the coaching staff and the personnel staff feel a lot better about Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick than fans do. And, and I'll be honest, I'm with the coaching staff and the personnel staff because Cody Whitehair is a good football player. He started since he's been a rookie at 2 different positions, and he's played good football. And last year, Patrick was hurt, so he never really got to show what he could do. But you go back to 20 and 21, his tape was not good. It was outstanding. So, he's got to get off to a real quick start and stay healthy in camp. He got hurt in OTAs and it carried over to training camp, and then he was out the first part of the season, and then he comes back, and then he gets hurt again. And before that, he'd been a really durable player. He just got hit with a bunch of shit last year, and it affected his game. So I get it. Fans are like I can't play. But, when you do the whole body of work, he can play. And he's pretty damn good.
Yes, indeed. Last question, we'll get you out of here. Corey Trice, the cornerback, you scouted him. He's a 6'3" corner, but Alissimo says he's a good cover 2 corner. I like him a lot. How much do you like him?
No, I like him. I like some of the guys I mentioned earlier, Ringo, Terrell Smith, and Rush better. But I like him, and I think he can be a press guy too. This team does not play as much cover 2 as Tampa 2 would say they do. They play a lot of press, and but I think he can play it. He's a big, tall, athletic guy with length. They already drafted a corner. They had a bunch of young corners last year. Besides Kyler Gordon, they had they hit big on 2 free agents. And if you look at the free agents numbers, I mean, these guys tested off the charts. One guy from Ole Miss, he had some off-field issues, and he was a little older. I think he's a 24-and-a-half-year-old rookie, so he got bypassed in the draft process. He's 25 now, but good player. And that's what was his name? His name was Jones too. So I mean, they got some talent there. So will they pull the trigger on another one? If they like them, yeah. If they feel they're set at the position, then no, they won't.
Last one, I promise. Andrew Littlefield asked, is there a good late day 3 developmental quarterback prospect? Let me throw some names at you. What about Tanner McGee from Stanford or Clayton Tune?
Yeah, McKee is your old-fashioned drop-back passer.
Yes, he is.
So he's like the exact opposite of what the 2 quarterbacks are they got right now. So do you want that? Where did I have? I had my list of quarterbacks here somewhere.
Let me throw some names at you. Clayton Tune from Houston, projected to go around the 6th round, 200.
I don't know him. The guy, the kid from UCLA.
Okay, that would be Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Right. He's an interesting guy, not the most accurate. Here's my list. Aiden O'Connell, who's another local kid. And now he would be like Tanner McKee. He's not, he's not a mobile guy. I'll tell you an interesting guy because all he does is win. Stetson Bennett from Georgia, but now he's a little guy. He's 5'11" and a half. And then I think one of the most intriguing guys, and he fits the mold of what we already have here, Max Duggan from TCU.
Interesting.
But the thing about Duggan is, did he pass the medical? I guess he had a issue, cancer or something. A few years ago, missed some time, came back, and had a great year.
Yes, he did.
It's like, what did the doctors say?
Yeah.
So that one's in the hands of the medical staff. And if he ends up not getting drafted, that means everybody's medical staff had a concern. If he gets drafted, whoever drafted him said, no, he's good to go.
Yeah, and he did not particularly have a great Senior Bowl week, but it's tough for quarterbacks, of course. But we're going to leave it there, Greg. Over an hour of fun talk and lots of people, hundreds of people joined us live, and we want to thank each and every one of them. Greg, when are we back? Monday morning, something like that?
Monday or Tuesday. I'll let you know. And I may, if I got some time this afternoon, I may just say, send me the link and I'll jump on.
Look at that, people. Look at that, people. Greg Gabriel might join the Barflies talking football. So we will see you then. Our coverage starts in about 54 minutes. I will let Greg go, and I will let everyone go and say goodbye and thanks for watching.
Enjoy the day, guys.
Yay.
See you later.